All right, and now we're back for part 3 of this series where we talked about the field, where everything begins, is all in the field, and then vibration, frequency, and sound, which influences the change and the expression of all changes as it's fluid and constant motion. And now we're going to talk about scalar fields and scalar technology, which is a modality at Integrity Wellness, a very complex, very interesting, but also very profound modality that has significant effect on you. And I can share some things about myself that I noticed a bit later. But first, we're going to talk about what is scalar and why is it in this series. And as far as I can tell about scalar, it's basically something that can imprint frequencies on you or within your cells or in your mind, in your consciousness, or even on your bracelets that can help assist with something in your life. And perhaps I'm wrong here, which I hope I am, because Crystal's going to correct me and share the details about it.
So you're partially correct. So scalar energy is something that was discovered first by James Clerk Maxwell in the 1800s. And essentially what happens is in space or in the ether, when two frequencies, so there's frequencies, millions and millions all over the place going through you at all times. There's like this whole world of electromagnetic sound and light energy going on that we can't see and we can't experience necessarily, but it's there. So there's this invisible radiant energy, and the background of it is the ether we talked about. So scalar is when two frequencies that are the same meet at the same point in space. And then when they do that, they create this almost like a football field effect where it creates a field within a field. So it becomes its own perturbation of the field itself, creating a mini field within it, and like a bubble. And so it becomes a bubble of the ether or of the unified field of consciousness. And so we have technology that can actually do that. And you can be within that field. So it has your specific information in it. And we can then use that field for therapeutic reasons in and of itself. We'll talk about all of the things that it can do and what it does for your body. And we can also use that field as a source to send frequency and vibrational information into the field for your body to uptake or to bathe in that information, and it will only take what it needs and leave what it doesn't need. So it's a super fascinating, it sounds very complex, but again, if we can break it down simply, I think we can, and we can understand the very nature of it. It's profound for human health. And even just, in modern world, modern living, with the chronic, constant busyness, constant stress, just to be able to recalibrate your central nervous system, your radio, right? Your battery that you are, just to give yourself a reboot, like a computer, is so helpful and beneficial. And so the scalar field itself is radiant energy. It is ether, or the unified field of consciousness. And so it creates this bubble effect of just that. And you and your body can bathe within a field that's like that. And it's different energy than what we were talking about in the prior episode. Frequency and vibration are transverse components, right? We can measure those with hertz, right? Because they go up and down, and we know 1 cycle per second is 1 up and down of the vibration of the ether. So, but this is different. So it creates a 0 point field, which means there's no transverse component. It's longitudinal, which means it's horizontal. It goes, spans out almost like a tubule would do. And there are no losses in this energetic field, meaning that if we were using frequency and vibration, that the entire field itself has access, the same intensity of access at one point to the other point. And there's no losses in that energy until that field is collapsed. And our bodies are very much scalar and sound and all of these principles we've already been talking about. And so when we actually immerse our bodies, immerse our minds, immerse our central nervous systems into this very fundamental field of 0 point, meaning there is no other influence, our bodies can actually recalibrate to their default system signatures, if you will. So we were born with very particular patterns and rhythms of use for our central nervous system, for our breathing, for our heart rate, for our everything. And so it can recalibrate and reset and reboot, and it feels absolutely blissful. And that's our natural state. That's the radiant energy that is meant to be pulsing through our tissues. And the more we do that, it's cumulative, and we allow our bodies to actually breathe and communicate and think without our mental construct of a mind, and in the way that they were built, in the way that they were designed by this intelligence. So it's absolutely fascinating, and it sounds really complex again, but it's very simple. It's very basic. And it provides your body with what it generally needs. And again, it's cumulative, so it's really cool.
That's awesome. And what kind of things can people expect when using scalar fields? We at Integrity have the spooky scalar set up, and when you go to set someone up in this scalar field, they're basically sitting on a chair in between two boxes, and essentially they're in this new field, right? This 0 point blank canvas new field where two forms of energy or vibrations are being sent at each other, and they're touching each other. Of course, you can't see it, but it's horizontal. And then when those two intersect, that's where that frequency is basically being imprinted on. And you, of course, are sitting in the middle of that. So you're absorbing it all at a very, very tiny level that you cannot, of course,
it's very
see
subtle
in any way. But what kind of things can people experience in these fields? Like what are the options available, and how do you go about helping different members?
So I think for the most part, this is subtle energy, and so therefore it's going to require people to be able to tune into their body, and if they want to feel or understand a little bit more of how their body is being influenced. And some people, very few, but some people don't really feel much other than very calm. So it absolutely balances your brain hemispheres, and it calms and recalibrates this entire central nervous system, your entire electrical system. So it's very calming. And even when we're sleeping, we're never necessarily in a 0 point rest kind of situation. So this means pure rest. And what energy is at its most fundamental source is rest or inertia. And as it's expressed, it's dissipating that energy, right? That's the release of energy that we see or feel. But at its basis, it's pure rest. And that's where healing happens. That's where your body's intelligence can actually communicate, can actually make a massive difference. And again, the way that the universe is designed, there's an inherent algorithm for growth or regeneration or proportionality. And that is what the source of energy in your body in a scalar field is then indicating, and it's initiating. It's telling your body, we have space and time to heal now. There's a moment of rest. There's a pause. There's a break in the movie, right? A bathroom break, if you will. So your body can then actually fully communicate, and it can start to heal and regenerate and repair on a grander level than what it's been able to before, because it hasn't had that capacity yet. It hasn't had the experience that it's been waiting for. When we're sleeping and everything's shut down, there's partial healing that can happen. But again, with modernity and the way that humans live these days, we interfere with that. We influence that state too often that it actually doesn't provide us with what we actually do need. So you get to feel calm, which most people don't feel these days. You also then get to kind of use your own awareness to tune in to where you can sense the field kind of interacting with you. And so that will happen in subtle ways like tingles, or sometimes a little repetitive pulsating sensation in one area. It could be a little sensation of heat, but it's pretty subtle. But that's the field informing you of where it is interfacing and interacting and where it's healing and what it's working on. And then you can then understand that something is happening in your body. So it's really profound. It's really quite nice. And we have the capacity, because of how the field itself works with things like frequency and vibration or plasma or even pulsed electromagnetic field, we have the capacity to utilize those together in the scalar field. So at Integrity, we utilize frequency and vibration. There was a gentleman by the name of Royal Rife who developed many different resonant frequencies for specific health conditions and ailments. And so those are parts of the programs that we use. And then there's also, we can access frequencies for pretty much any physical expression that exists. And we target that individually. So if you came to me and said you had, rotator cuff tear, we can utilize different frequencies that will then vibrate the field in particular ways that will then influence your shoulder specifically. So we have ways to direct the field as well as allow it to direct itself with your body's intelligence too. So it's really fascinating times of what we can actually bring to people for their health now, and how profoundly intelligent and incredible these technologies are. And they're completely aligned with our own body's intelligence. It's all fully natural. So there's no side effects. Your body will not take frequencies that it does not need, even if I put them in the field, in the scalar field. They'll just sit there. And then when the field collapses, when we're finished, we turn that field off to begin anew for someone else. The frequencies are just gone with the collapse of the field. So it's like the wave particle duality almost, where the wave becomes collapsed into the visible particle itself, although it's not actually a duality, right? It's just a node of visibility of that wave, if you will. So
That's amazing. And there's a few things I want to comment on. One, how it gives you an opportunity to actually heal. And I think that's very important because as I've learned more about becoming more parasympathetic and more rest and digest, that is really when healing takes place,
Yeah.
or else you're just compounding what's not good. So you mentioned how during sleep is when a lot of our healing is. And then I thought, wow, imagine sleeping in the scalar field for a whole, 8 hours, and like, whoa, you could probably have the best sleep of your life.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention is the amount of programs. Like there really are thousands upon thousands of programs that you can mix and match different things that would be tailored uniquely to and for you.
Yeah.
That would obviously make a change. Of course, you would have to be a bit consistent and do it a few times, but in no amount of time would you see a difference. And I can definitely say that for myself. I did a few of them for Supercharge and even for acute inflammation and Schumann, and just a few different ones that I was testing out, and like immediately I noticed like, whoa, like how like unbelievably loose and fluid and nice I felt after like a acute inflammation Schumann, which is like one Donnie recommended. And I tried that I think 3 or 4 times in a row, and it was like on that 4th time it was like, wow, like I just felt so nice, like just unbelievably nice. And it wasn't even that I was like feeling like superhuman strength kind of thing, and not that. It was more like I'm just at complete bliss, like I just feel great. Whereas the Supercharge, I tried that twice in a row, and like I noticed tremendous energy level increase, like for sure an energy level increase. So like again, like there are so many different programs, and I can only imagine sleeping in one that is designed for like just to feel blissful. And like, whoa,
The
you'd
field
sleep amazing.
itself. So when we first started putting this model together, we actually had the scalar equipment at home. And if we were closed for any period of time, like 3 or 4 days, we'd actually bring one home. We used to bring one home every day because it was so fantastic. But it got old pretty fast. So, but sleeping in that field is precisely blissful. It's almost indescribable. And the quality of the sleep that you do get is unbelievable. You wake up in the morning feeling actually rested and so energized and at peace. And I think there's a huge difference between some things that provide sleep as a sleep aid and something like this very natural field of awareness that is what you're made of. And when you sleep in a field of what you're made of, it's really, really, I don't even know the right words. To be honest, it's just super profound. And when you feel what bliss feels like, you feel what peace feels like consistently, not just here or there, but that's ongoing. You really realize what your natural state is meant to be. And then, something triggers you in the outside world. some kind of stressor, some kind of influence, you often don't retaliate or react the way that you used to. And that you become aware of that. So it fundamentally changes you over time as well. But sleeping in that field is very blissful, and it's really cool. Yeah.
So why did you decide to include Scalar at Integrity Wellness as such an important modality, and where does it stand in terms of the hierarchy of the order of operations?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So as we were studying more and more about the nature of water, the nature of hydrogen, the nature of charge and energy, inevitably we got to the unified field of consciousness or the ether. And when you realize where things begin, you can't forget the beginning. So the beginning becomes the focal point, and that's kind of what happened. We originally were going to start just working with hydrogen and Brown's gas. And then when we really realized what hydrogen and Brown's gas are ultimately affecting is the ether, we realized that scalar energy is one of the ether perturbation modalities, which means it's one of the fundamentals. It's one of the very principal modalities that can truly affect change in the human body and the lives of humans. So, and our goal is to really look at things from a different lens, right? To kind of zoom out and have a 40-foot view. What are the things that are going to impact the human body or the human experience or the human condition the most? And even though these are subtle and some people could very easily, if they're not aware, have no sense of any change or any interaction in that field, their body's still going to get the benefit from it, regardless if they're aware of it or not. And I think that's really important. And I think once we started really realizing that everything fundamentally came back down to consciousness, that this was a conscious field, that it was inevitable we had to incorporate it. And the effects of it have been really important because I think a lot of people don't realize that if everything is generated from the unified field of consciousness, then it means all of the distortions in the expression are also at that level. And if you know that, then it's only a matter of time before anything and everything can improve based on your own involvement, based on your own utilization of what the Creator has provided for us. So we don't have to go into the weeds. We don't have to go searching and searching and searching. We don't have to call anything different names and titles and scary terms, right? We don't have to scare people. We can just say, hey, something doesn't feel right. Let's talk about what the body is telling you and what it's trying to show you. And then we work on that in the scalar field amongst some of the other things that we do here too. But it really, it kind of brings you back home almost. Like when you're looking for solutions, you want to have a solution that you can always go to. And it's a undeniably irrefutable modality that when everybody starts here, within a matter of a couple of weeks, it becomes their favorite because it's where, if you're consistent, you'll get the most results from. Yeah.
It's amazing, and we will definitely have to do a full-on discussion one of these days about all the things about Scalar, because Scalar was discussed like way while back, and there was some history about the Soviets who tried using it for weapons and like you think like 0 point and then imprinting frequencies that can be quite dangerous actually if we go the opposite way, but then it wasn't discovered till later that it's actually only for healing, really, for healing purposes.
It could be used for non-productive means as well. Just similar to how sound is used, or electromagnetic weapons, right? They have been developed and they have been used. But again, when we really kind of bring it back to its basic principles, there's built-in mechanisms, there's built-in information, there's built-in patterns and algorithms and design that humans have no knowledge of, that there's no way we could. So for as much damage as we're potentially able to do, there's really, it's really not worth talking about, because I think most humans are good. I think everyone is inherently trying to help others and themselves. And even the ways that scalar energy has been used by governments, they're still quite limited because they don't understand it, and they won't ever be able to fully understand the majesty of it all. The healing capabilities of scalar energy have been studied, and the effects of the 0 point field and the distance that it can actually travel. So like we have a scalar device here, 2 of them, and the field that it develops is not necessarily very massive, but the extension beyond the field of the effects that we can't really see or measure is actually really profound as well. So even outside of the room, when that scalar field is on, there's some effect of the field around for all the other people. And there's been quite a number of studies that have looked at the human biofield or electromagnetic field that's outside of us, and the integrity of it before and after use of scalar, for instance. And there's really profound improvements in the integrity of the electromagnetic field. So that electromagnetic field is your bioenergetic signature. It's what protects you from everything. And if it's porous or has, holes in it, from thoughts, emotions, different distortions, dishonesty, not accepting true reality, and honest about your own life events and circumstances, relationships, everything that can affect your health actually first affects this field. And the field itself is your body's integrity. It's immune system, the beginning of it. It's the communication system, the beginning of it. It's all of it. And so the more intact and integrity that your electromagnetic field has, the more energy you're going to have, the more your immune system is going to function better. Your communication network will be better. Your everything will fire. There'll be more signal and less noise. So scalar fields and scalar healing technologies directly improve that measurably. So there are some ways that we can actually objectively measure the effects of scalar healing or scalar energy. just very different than what the ways that people are used to, or kind of conventional ways of measuring and identifying how it works. The other thing I just want to mention about scalar energy is that since it's 0 point and it opens sort of this tunnel or channel within the ether, that means that there's essentially no travel time of any information. It's present everywhere at all times in that scalar field. And we didn't really touch on this, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in the new year, but ether itself, being pure rest and pure energy, is actually infinite potentiality. So the possibilities are infinite when you're in this field. And so if you can connect that with your intention or your awareness and understand that anything's possible in the scalar field, and you truly heartfelt really understand that, then the healing capacity that you have is exponentially even higher when you're within that field. So the field paired with your own awareness and intention and genuine knowing, like genuine understanding that this is helpful for you, is going to be even more profoundly impactful in a positive, productive way for your health and your life.
Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And I can only imagine that when a member comes to you and you know, or you have a plan of action for them, you share this information with them. And of course, if they have the intention with the integrity and the consistency to make that happen, it's within literally no time that those changes happen that quick, and they're convinced, they're sold. It's like, but you know, all along this was actually the truth. It's just a matter of A, getting the canvas right,
Yeah.
B, getting the vibration and frequency that your body truly needs in order to get on that right station, that right radio station, and then actually believing it and seeing it as the truth it was all along.
Yep. 100%. It's really fascinating. And when we actually kind of consider the vantage point that I have, right? I'm a medical doctor by training, and I'm sitting here talking to you about the fundamental substrate or energy of the universe and consciousness. And most of my colleagues know nothing about what I'm talking about, and medicine itself doesn't acknowledge. And it's not just medicine, it's most of the world, that the true nature of reality is not understood, and it's certainly not in the forefront of our decision making in our lives. And there's a massive difference when you shift your lens and perspective, and you start living with this new information being first and foremost. Massive changes and upliftment and gratitude and reverence, really, for the sublime creation that we get to experience. We're very fortunate. We're very blessed. And it really changes how you value life itself. It changes how you value other human beings and the relationships that you have, even the conflicts that you have. It really, this new perspective changes all of that, because you really recognize that everything really boils down to consciousness. And we have the capacity to directly connect to the source consciousness. And we don't necessarily have to accept the way that things have played out to be our future. A lot of people are stuck in looking at the past and dwelling in the past, which creates the future, right? And it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what my January women's group is going to be all about, which we'll do another sort of information session on, because the more that we can start to see the world from a different lens and see that things are very different than what we were told, and find the answers for ourselves in an autodidactic way where we study the information ourselves, make the connections, and critically think for ourselves, we can actually truly invent and innovate. And I think that that is what we're here for fundamentally. If we're created, right, we're creations of a creator, then our very primordial intelligence is creative intelligence. And we're here to express our unique creative capabilities that we were given as gifts from source energy. So I really think that this is an exciting time, and I hope people will ask questions and engage. I can even provide tons of resources, because I haven't gotten here overnight either in my understanding and in my study. It's been a number of years, and there are a few key people that have led me here. And so if people are really interested in learning more, I'm happy to give some direction, but you'll have to contact me for that. Okay.
Sounds awesome. And thank you. And this is a really good time because 2025 is going to be a mega year with all kinds of changes happening globally and definitely in medicine and the whole, I guess, biohealth area, right? And here at Integrity especially. And stay tuned for this next episode where we give all the details behind the Phoenix Rising group that will surely change many female lives.
I hope so.
Thank you, Dr. Chris, for this 3-part series. And yes, please leave some comments or questions below if you have any.
Yep.
And we'll be sure to send you any or share any resources available.
Amazing. Thanks, Josie.
Om Soham